It's time for Supply Chain Now Radio, broadcasting live from the supply chain capital of the country, Atlanta, Georgia. Supply Chain Now Radio spotlights the best in all things supply chain. The people, the technologies, the best practices, and the critical issues of the day. And now, here are your hosts.
Hey, good morning. Scott Luton here with you live on Supply Chain Now Radio. Welcome back to the show. On today's show, we aren't broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia, but rather we're broadcasting live from Austin, Texas, home of EFT's Logistics CIO Forum, a Reuters event. We're going to be interviewing a wide range of some of the most innovative thought leaders that are all doing big things across the end-to-end supply chain industry. And our team is proud to continue to partner with Nick Stiliano, Asif Naqvi, and the EFT and Reuters event team. So let's welcome in my fearless co-host here today, Mr. Greg White, serial supply chain tech entrepreneur, chronic disruptor, and trusted advisor. Greg, how you doing?
Chronic, I like it. I'm doing great. The weather is fantastic here, and for all the folks back home in Atlanta,
it is,
by the way.
It's gorgeous. We got in a couple days ago.
I can't remember.
And have enjoyed the food and camaraderie, and have already had some neat sidebar conversations with some of the supply chain leaders here.
Yep.
And excited about this interview we got here. So let's welcome in our featured guest for this segment, Ashok Vantipalli, CIO at TireHub. Ashok, how you doing?
Good morning. First of all, Greg and Scott, appreciate you guys inviting me for this podcast, if you will. Really looking forward to next 2 days of EFT CIO Logistics Forum. Here to learn a lot as well, and learn from my peers, and hopefully share some of my thoughts and trends that the industry is going to see.
Yeah, very
Absolutely.
cool. I'm glad the three of us could come from Atlanta to get together here in Austin.
I know.
Right?
Well, you know, we were fortunate to have one of your colleagues, Peter Gibbons from TireHub, join us and on the show last June, and we've gotten a ton of feedback about that story and really about the TireHub story.
Yeah.
And so excited to have you back. So for our listeners that didn't catch that episode, tell us more about TireHub.
Sure. Before that, I think you mentioned Peter Gibbons, our CEO. I'm really proud to be part of the leadership team, and couldn't have asked for a better leader to lead our company. So a bit about before I go into the company itself, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in the industry itself, right? Specifically the tire distribution industry. The biggest challenge, I think when we look at the industry, what we see is a tremendous amount of SKU proliferation and also a tremendous amount of a lot of brands across the globe, right? Now, why would a consumer such as you and I care about that, right? And well, we should. I'll give you a simple example to kind of hit this home is, let's assume you're driving a Chevy Trailblazer 2014 or 15, and you go to your favorite auto parts store, Napa, right, in Atlanta, and you go look for the brake pads. What are the odds of showing that brake pad showing up on the...
My wife is laughing at us in Atlanta because she knows I have no idea how to work any of these parts that we're talking about.
Oh, you're not alone. I'm with you there.
Yeah. Many people. Yeah.
It's called outsourced.
Yeah, that's right. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
So we're going to the Napa store.
Yeah, and you look for that auto part, and it's obviously not there because it's for a retailer to stock something like that, which is not a fast-moving SKU, if you will. It becomes a tremendous challenge for space constraints and et cetera, right? Now we're talking a little brake pad there. Now think about the tires, how big they are, right? Nobody has a warehouse space, et cetera. Now that's one part of the challenge. The second part of the challenge really is, as a consumer, when the car comes out of the dealer's lot, the first, whether it's a BMW, Lexus, whatever you like to drive, the original tires that are on the car, and you're 30, 40,000 miles in, you want a new tire, the odds of actually getting the same tire on the car are less than 50%. Can you believe that? And hopefully this kind of gives you why the reasons are. And what really happens is you're at the mercy of the guy who's behind the counter and saying, I need these tires, and you're like, okay, this is all I got in stock. And there's always an immediacy attached to it, and people say, okay, get me on whatever you can, and voila, you got, right? So now if you take a step back, our shareholders, so TireHub is a joint venture between Goodyear and Bridgestone. And somebody may ask, how come arch competitors come together to form a joint venture, right? Well, they saw the need in the industry that they wanted to make sure the consumers were on the tires they love, and they were finding it tough that there was tremendous amount of friction to get that through. So they said, rather than depending on somebody third party, why don't we come together as a company and form a distribution logistics software services company to enable that, so that the consumers such as you and I are on the tires that we love, right? That's in a sense what it is. Now, there's a lot between what I said and what actually happens behind the scenes, but in a nutshell, what that is.
Yeah.
Furthermore to that, the company was started last July, and we have about 70 distribution centers across the country, and our customers are generally large box retailers such as Costco, discounts, to independent tire dealers across the country. Since stand-up, I'm really proud to say that, again, goes to say the culture the company's building and rallying around, we've acquired about 70,000 customers since stand-up.
Wow.
And it's quite an achievement. We continue to grow at a very aggressive pace. And obviously technology plays a huge role in that.
Absolutely. Well, now you joined the company about a year and a half ago, roughly. Is that right?
Yeah.
And your role. Tell us more about what you do with TireHub.
Yeah, so my role is CIO, but in many ways, probably I could call myself CTO because we're a product-driven company, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So, like I said, at the end of the day, to solve the end consumer need, which is what we're talking about the last 5 minutes or so, it takes tremendous amount of integrations, connectivity, being there at the right place at the right time to happen, and technology plays a key role in that. We always talk about within our company, right? We're no different than, let's talk about a parallel, Amazon. We all know about Amazon, right? No need to, rehash that. Amazon has created an exchange for, you only see it from the consumer side of the house, but when you look at from a business to business, they've created an exchange where a lot of these retailers can participate in that exchange so that the end consumer is able to get the product that they want, right? And in a very fast fashion. Now Amazon Prime has gone down from 2 days to 1 day, great achievement, right? We are absolutely no different, but we have a very stringent requirement beyond that, which is, I always talk to my team about, we are there to connect the demand to supply in real time, make sure that supply is there at the right place at the right time, right? Again, the size of the tire, right? And et cetera, et cetera. And then the other big requirement, which is far more stringent than Amazon, like I said, is to be able to deliver that product within the same day or within 4 hours. Now, just imagine what it takes to make that whole ecosystem happen, if you will. Right? So that's in a sense what we are here for, right? And my view is, maybe probably in many ways against the grain, but I'm going to make a statement. I strongly believe, and here's why reason for me to come is, unless we solve the end consumer problem, we're really not solving the problem of this, the issue that we have in the industry.
Amen. Yeah. Right. I think it's too often that we forget that the consumer is the beginning and the end of the supply chain.
Absolutely.
People think of supply chain as all of this infrastructure, right? But really the only reason the supply chain exists is because the consumer desires goods.
Absolutely right on.
Great point. Yeah. So you really answered, that's the why. That's the why that distribution logistics industry for you, and that's the why for TireHub.
Yeah. So is that right? Was there something about the existing distribution infrastructure, which is vast, as we all know, right? I mean, that underserved your particular purposes? There must have been something missing, I guess, is where I'm coming from, in the marketplace that caused Goodyear and Bridgestone to come together. Yeah,
so there are a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I think whether call it SKU proliferation, or if you look at brand delusion, what both of our shareholders felt that they were, if they did not own their supply chain, they were reliant on some third party to really, push their mission forward, and which was really not happening, right? So they said, why not we take ownership of that, right? And then actually they did a very, very smart move, which is say, they could have easily said, okay, let's take our distributions and combine and keep it under the umbrella. They said, no. We are a manufacturer of tire, and we need a company that is awesome at distribution, customer service, and hence created this entity called TireHub, right? And gave it the independence to do what it's good for, and they do what they do well. Right?
Got it.
So you mentioned the shareholders. Let's talk about any additional information you can share about the mandate from TireHub shareholders and how technology is playing a huge factor in executing on that.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, we've taken the mandate from our shareholders, Bridgestone and Goodyear. First of all, let me take a step back. Sure. We have, in addition to Bridgestone and Goodyear, we have 6 other brands that we have and sell to our customers. We simplified it into a simple mission statement, call it. We said, want to make sure our customers are on the tires that they love. Let me define those 2 terms, customers. Like I said earlier, our customers are all the way from big box retailers to little mom and pop shops and independent dealers, and then their customers are customers such as consumers such as you and I, right?
Right.
And when we look at this, it's that mission statement is kind of easy to say, but actually really hard to make it happen, right? And
always,
right. And part of the reason why I took this opportunity, honestly, is coming from software industry, you have a defined problem, you go define, solve it. This industry is more than 100 years old. There are some ways and means people are accustomed to, right? And there's tremendous amount of friction to change that behavior.
Yep.
Right. But at the same time, whether it's your end customer, consumer, or our customer, at the end of the day, we've all experienced using whether Uber or Amazon. But when it comes to their own business, there's no technology automation for them to actually reap the benefit and really serve the customer better, right? So from a technology standpoint, like I talked about, connecting the demand to supply. So what we call, in that space, we have 2 products, what we call TireHub Now and TireHub Pass. TireHub Now is a B2B website for our independent dealers. And TireHub Pass is, we have a variety of flavor of microservices and APIs to enable connectivity with large customers such as Costco, discounts, etc. Right? And then on the second part that I talked about, ensuring that we have the right supply at the right time at the right place, right? And you folks, know very well that it's an age-old problem. Everybody's trying to solve. Yep. Some have been successful, but in our case, the concept of seasonality plays a huge role. Winter tires versus summer tires,
right?
And then the consumer trends that are changing lately, right? If you think about Ford stopped making cars, right? Or GM is stopping SUV. So the demand for different tires are increasing, right? And now how do you place that particular tire at the right location? So that's always, we're in the process of deploying a major demand and supply planning tool with some deep machine learning as we move forward, look at the historical data and give us some pattern behaviors. So we are far more predictable. Our role, connecting the demand to supply is, first you need to make sure the supply is there when the actual connection happens, right? So that's the other part of it. And then the third leg of that is, okay, found the supply, connected, order. Now the trick is, how do I deliver, optimally deliver, right? And you've all seen now Amazon Sprinter trucks going around. We have our own fleet and our own teams across the country with the 70 distribution centers.
It's a big advantage.
Yeah, we deliver 4 times a day, right? And we find optimal way to deliver that, and we're deploying a route logistics software as we speak. We've done quite a bit of pilots, now in a full deployment of that. So to me, you need to be able to do all 3 of them, not just independently, but together to make it, it's like a song, it's tuned to a song.
Yes, it's like a symphony.
Exactly.
The technology,
better word.
The technology that you're deploying, are you building it, or are you buying it, or partnering? How are you accomplishing that?
It's
because your history would tell me you have the skills to build it.
Yes, absolutely. Right? I have to tell you a little story before I actually answer that question. So before coming to TireHub, I think it was late 2007, 10, between that time, 12. I used to work for a lot of private equity firms, and as an interim CIO, CTO roles, and coming from a software industry, for a hammer wears a nail type of situation, right? And I always used to think that way. And I remember in a board conversation for a healthcare company, I was just getting so excited about this technology, that technology, and the private equity partners like, stop. Tell me how it improves the top line revenue growth or EBITDA margin improvements. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But it's so neat. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I want it.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I say that because that was a great jolt that I got as an individual for me to really take a step back and say, what does it mean for our business, right?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, when the news came out from Bridgestone and Goodyear about TireHub, right? In many ways, time was against us because how do you go from 0 to 70,000 customers being able to deliver that with speed?
Right.
One of our currencies we call speedy, right? So you couldn't do this by building your own things. So the way we've looked at is, obviously we have certain core partners without going into details, whether our ERP, portal, etc. But then anything that gives us the flexibility. So to grow and scale, which is kind of close to our heart, we've developed internally. So all of our microservices, APIs, middleware, while we've leveraged other technology, but we've kind of kept it close to our heart. And the reason for that is what we found is, and it obviously kind of makes the point from going from 0 to 70,000. Once we built those microservices and APIs, without going into detail of a customer, before doing this, we were doing 50% of our revenue through our portal, 50% through our phone channel. And overnight, when we connected to their POS system, point of sale system, our volume went fourfold because this is where we took the friction out of that transaction.
Right.
And when the agent is right behind the counter and the customer is standing in front of them, they are able to serve them right then and there.
Wow.
Right? So to me, anything that is fairly strategic and the industry hasn't solved for it, we are developing.
Yep.
Anything where we can partner with our software providers, we are. For that matter, here in Austin, without giving out the name, working with one of our partner, we met their product team yesterday to talk about, hey, here's the problems we're trying to solve. Can we partner with you guys to innovate your roadmap and yet deliver capabilities for our customers so they are happy about it? So it's a kind of a two-pronged strategy.
That's a great approach because you, with the APIs and your connectors, you're less limited by the limitations of your technology partners.
Yeah.
Right? You take all of the goodness that they provide you as an output. You take their hammer.
Yeah.
Right, and you find the nail.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's a great approach.
So clearly, technology is part of the fabric at Tire. It's in the DNA at TireHub. How else are you? And you've kind of walked through the different ways you're leveraging technology. Anything else as it relates to implementing that growth strategy and serving the customers and 70,000 customers in no time? Yeah. Anything else? Any other ways that you're leveraging technology to grow and scale as fast as you are?
Absolutely. So I think we often ask ourselves a question. what is our product, right? And early on, the answer used to be tire, but actually, if you take a step back, our manufacturers or shareholders, actually, their product is tire. Our product is really the people and the technology that deliver great customer experiences, right? So it's almost like while I can sit here and brag all about the great technology stuff that we're doing, the other half, the yin and yang, is our people who kind of make that happen, right? When obviously, as part of our culture, we've always talked about being approachable to our customers, right? Whether it's a driver who's delivering that tire to our distribution logistics center's leader, to somebody who's on the technology team, we all have to have that attribute. We take a painstaking process to make sure people have those attributes before they come in. And I think you can't do that just putting on a piece of paper. You actually have to really build that inside out, if you will, and to deliver that. So to me, while technology is absolutely helping the growth and making those connections, but at the end of the day, it's a human interaction that, again, starts with the end consumer and ends with that. That piece still absolutely is executed by what we call our colleagues, hubbers, right? And those folks out in the field, day in, day out, deliver that to our customers.
I like that hubbers thing. That's cool.
I do too.
Yeah, although my daughter always makes fun of that.
How old is she?
She's 10. She's 10.
I would have guessed 14 if she's making fun of things.
She's ahead of the day.
Yeah.
Can I say?
You're in trouble.
So
absolutely.
So let's talk about. Let's break out your crystal ball and let's look at the next few years and what you can predict. Where you're headed. What I like of what we've heard, Ashok, is you've really laid out the current state very impressively, right? Clearly, TireHub's a very innovative organization. We gathered that from our first interview with Peter Gibbons, and of course, all this being from Atlanta. We hear a good bit about TireHub, right? We love it, and frankly, I love the collaboration between two big brands because I think that really illustrates the level of progressive collaboration that we're really seeing across the supply chain space. But break out your crystal ball. Tell us where we're headed over the next couple of years. What else is behind the green curtain, so to speak?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about what we've done so far and what that means next, right? So obviously, like we've been talking the last 15, 20 minutes about, it all starts with the end consumer, right? But then you can't solve that problem day one, right? The way we are approaching right now is first make sure between us and our customers, which is our B2B customers, that exchange or interaction is crystal clear and good, right? It's repeatable, scalable, etc., right? One stat I would give you, which kind of will talk a little bit about why the strategy has worked out. So when we opened the doors last July, our main channels of revenue or volume were phone and our B2B portal. Call it 50-50, right? I wasn't there day one, but joined shortly after. Fast track, a year later, 35 to 40% of our transactions are actually coming through our API channel. So, so think about having done that. So it obviously shows that we are addressing the needs of our customers. It's not about the technology; it's just a vehicle to get that. But the point is, we're doing something that's right. Now, that is helping to get our customers interact and work with us far better.
Yeah.
The next piece to me is the consumer element. Now, we're never going to be directly selling to consumers. That's not our mandate, nor we are interested. But we are passionate about what it means for the end consumer. How can we make that life of their experience better? So to me, there are two unique trends that I think, whether it's a TireHub or any other distributor for that matter, need to really focus on is the industry is a little behind looking at historical data and analytics around, again, we all hear buzzwords around artificial intelligence, machine learning, to me, we got to crawl, walk, run, specifically in this industry, where I think there are certain other demand signals that have not been tapped in the past, right? And those, as you start to take those demand signals, I think we will have better predictability of where the demand is, which solves the first problem I was talking about, connecting the demand to supply, right? So that's absolutely critical, because if you don't get that right, forget you can have a Mercedes driving tires, you're not going to get there.
You're leading in the dark if you don't get it right.
So to me, that is the most important trend. The other piece of thing, and partly why I'm attending this forum, is to learn from peers and colleagues, is what else is happening in the distribution and logistics space, which is with the product coming in and out the warehouse, right? What other technologies? I remember a long time ago, I worked for a private equity firm. We were working on a problem that they were solving. They were a beer keg manufacturer, something that interests all of us.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is 2007 or 8. And they had an interesting problem. They had 30,000 kegs across the country that they would give it to local bars and stuff, right? And their loss rate was 30%. Obviously, after a keg of beer, you don't know where you left that one. So they approached us to solve this problem, through RFID chips and stuff like that. We came up with an approach and implemented that. But now I fast track, IoT devices and all that. So, and
the kegs will walk back to us these days.
Exactly. I wish. Or the tires will roll by themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think what I see is there's tremendous opportunity of intersection between that technology and a problem that is still kind of not solved adequately, at least I believe in our industry. And my view is, if you want to be able to deliver the product in time as you promise to your customers, the warehouse needs to be fairly efficient. And I think we're in almost like a starting point of that journey, and
of warehouse optimization.
Exactly.
Right.
You know better terminology than I do. Yeah.
And when you talk about
I think
that,
you made it up. Right?
That's about 90% of the show. You're thinking process, you're thinking people, you're thinking technology, kind of the whole enchilada.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, they all have to come hand in hand in many ways. I think most recently we've been, since stand up, we've gotten our ERP/WMS system working well. Now we're looking to say, okay, let's look at how many times the product is coming in from our shareholders, right, in terms of supply, and what is the optimal way to actually stack them, right, in the racks, so that the order picking is much easier, right? And I think it all starts with process first, and then technology says where are the inefficiencies and how I can address them. So we're in early phases of that, but really looking forward to later part of this year in 2020 to optimize that piece.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll have to have you back on so you can share some of your lessons learned.
Absolutely.
During that process. But there's always opportunity, right? There's always opportunity, and it's always neat to rub elbows with leaders that despite what's gone well, right?
Yeah.
They're still humble enough to look for those opportunities and act on them, right? Okay, so how can folks learn? I know you're providing a keynote later today, right?
Yeah.
Here at the Logistics CIO Forum. Looking forward to that. But how can folks learn more about TireHub?
Yeah, sure. I think first and foremost, I would say, having worked many years in New York, private equity, financial services, consulting environments, and
some
different
tough
places.
environments.
Yeah, hence the lack of hair. I find one of the things that, we're not big by any stretch of imagination when you look at other distributors, but there's something unique about, I think, the team that Peter has pulled together and the team that we've formed. There's inherent zeal to make this a success. In many ways, all of our what we call hubbers feel like they're shareholder of the company, and they want to see success. How do you go from 0 to 70,000 customers? It's just not a joke, right? It can only happen when we are all aligned to the same goal, and we don't look at this as a job, or the teams don't look at this as a job. They look at this as a mission and really engage and marching forward with that. Have we seen setbacks? Absolutely. We've had several setbacks early on. It was a bumpy ride for our customers, and we were absolutely transparent. I remember earlier this year at a Goodyear conference, we just said, look, we just started the company. We recognize here are the issues. If you have issues with technology, here's Ashok. If you have issues with our back office billing, here's Scott King, our CFO, yada, yada, yada. And we had just active participation, took the issues, worked through them. And I'm really proud to now, most recently, we as an executive team keep calling one customer a week, thanking for their business, and also looking at what can we do better. And I think the consistent theme is, great job, guys, keep it on. And during that process, we also get a thing or two about how about this and that, right? So that's that. So to me, if you want to be part of a great culture, great commodity, you want to definitely come to TireHub. There's no ifs and buts about that. And the second piece I would say is to learn more about, to answer your original question, learn more about, obviously we are fairly active on LinkedIn and several openings. We're growing as we speak.
Outstanding.
Yeah. And also Twitter. So that's one way to engage. Or, I'm always available on LinkedIn to ping me. I'd love to answer any questions if you either are interested in, we're growing our technology group as well. And
that doesn't surprise me at all. You are doing some really neat things from a technology that clearly, again, it's core to the company.
Yeah. And I'm glad you asked me that question in a way that one of the parts that I'm really, really thankful is not just CEO and my exec team, but also our board has been super, super supportive. So as I walked in the door, the company was stood up. Obviously, given the deal, lot was done to stand up the company, but a lot was to be done. So the way I always talk to our shareholders and the exec team is they've handed the baton to us. Now it's for us to take it forward and do what it's required. So early on, we realized that the way the technology group has been set up is not being set up as a product-centric, company, right, or technology group. So we went back to the board and asked for additional funding, and it was fairly supportive.
Yeah.
In that way.
Well, you and also to our listeners, TireHub.com. So if you're interested in a great career, they're working for a great company, a ton of passion. So
you got a tire store, right? Right.
But that transparency you spoke of, that's such. It's in demand more than ever before, and clearly, I can appreciate some of the questions you were answering from folks as y'all continue to get better and better, and going back to, again, not resting on the laurels. I mean, you've grown, you're serving 70,000 customers, and you are thinking about what's next and how can we practically and successfully apply technology, not just applying technology for the sake of creating some new projects and getting some of the shiniest new bells and whistles, right?
Yeah. I've one would say let's call that continuous improvement, and let's improve it. But again, this is where I really love our TireHub's culture. We try to put ourselves in our customers' shoes and try to look at from their lens. If, for example, our customers rely on our service because they have set up an appointment with their customers, and if we haven't delivered to that promise, it's a promise that is not delivered. So we look at it from that angle. I think if you always keep it from that perspective, continuous improvement is a side effect of that, if you will.
Love that. Okay, well, really enjoyed our time. I know you've got 1,000 conversations to have today. I'm looking forward to your keynote, and we want to check back in with you a few months down the road as y'all continue to optimize everything.
Let's
really
do it in Atlanta
story.
next time. What do you say, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. I'll come by your house.
Yeah, on a golf course. How about
Yeah,
that?
that sounds great.
So we have been speaking with Ashok Vantipalli, CIO at TireHub, and again, our listeners can learn more about the TireHub story and organization and careers, you name it, at TireHub.com. Thanks again for your time.
All right. Thank you, Greg and Scott.
Yeah.
To our listeners, be sure to check out other upcoming events, replays of our interviews, other resources at supplychainnowradio.com. Stay tuned as we continue to cover the Logistics CIO Forum here down in beautiful Austin, Texas. Of course, you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, all the leading sites where podcasts can be found. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. On behalf of the entire team here, Scott Luton wishing you a wonderful week ahead, and we will see you next time on Supply Chain Now Radio. Thanks, everybody.